gold, gear, ability materials, trading materials, all things that we are limited on. I am Dogbert. I have hoarded these materials. I have built the character, and together we shall find out, is this character worth it?
Hello and welcome to Worth It. I am Dogbert, and today we are going to be talking about the Hero Asgardians. The reason being because you really need to run them as a team, which you'll see. So, also in other news, this is my first video with my new microphone. I hope this sounds better than what I've done in the past. You can just let me know. I don't have the greatest hearing, so to what sounds good to me doesn't sound good to everybody else because I generally have to really crank things up in order to hear it. Anyway, let's move on to the Hero Asgardians, though. Let's just talk about their pros. There's a few of them. They actually do have quite good passive sustain. If you haven't looked at their kits, if you look at their kits, on all their passives, they heal themselves every turn, based on the number of Asgardians, or in case of Thor, Wave 1 Avengers also applies too. And they'll heal themselves up quite nicely, actually. They do have very high damage, actually, which also goes into a con as we'll look at the investments. But they do have incredibly high damage, and that high damage is actually lots of AoE damage as well, meaning they are going to take down waves of enemies very quickly because of the amount of damage they can put out. However, there's I'll say they're a good ward defense. I almost forgot to mention that. You might say they're not a good war defense because, you can beat them with the Speed Eternals. Well, if I have to use a team like the Eternals and hold them back on defense to beat this team, and that's the only team that can do it, that means they're pretty good if I need that kind of level of power. As far as their cons, you really do need to run them all together individually. None of them really stand out to be very good on their own. They at least need another one. Particularly the Thors really need to be together. They really work well, but honestly, they really need Sif, and then they really need Heimdall, and before you know it, you're running all of them. They are slower characters, though. They're not very fast speed. They're going to probably take some hits in the beginning. So, depending on what we see in that Scourge, that's going to depend on how good they are. The Thors really need all their T4s. Honestly, they are the main damage of this team, is the Thors. Mighty Thor and, of course, regular Thor. You might not see it as much on Mighty Thor, but she does put out quite a bit of damage. Not as much as regular Thor does. He is the main damage dealer of the team. They are very susceptible to heal block. There, I got it out, finally. This really does feel like Symbiotes 2.0, in which case if they get heal blocked, they're kind of screwed because without the heal block. Now, Heimdall does have on his special, he will remove heal block, but it means you have to wait for him to take his turn and have his special ready to get rid of that heal block. So you're going to have to keep that in mind if you're actually going to play this team. You might want to hold back on that Heimdall special. And they're also not good at taking high burst damage quickly. If there's a high burst damage all of a sudden happens to them, they are probably going to die. And once one starts dying, they all start dying. Simple enough. So let's take a little break here and actually go and look at them inside of DD3. Now this is going to be this video is we're taking on Catbert. These are all level 75 with the exception of Hela. We don't have Valkyrie yet, so I put Hela in as the placeholder for her right now. Hela is gear 80, level gear 15, so it actually doesn't make much of a difference. She's just kind of there. She kind of works with them. So let's take a look at that. So here we have the first cosmic node in DD3. This is a fairly easy node. You see with the Greg here, he helps charge up Thor a little bit more. Once we have Valkyrie, they'll actually put out even more damage because Valkyrie gives them crit. Although I'm not sure how valuable Valkyrie really is to the team, because in order for her passive to work, one of the heroes has to die. So that's really going to be questionable. We'll take a look at their kits also after this. Just so you can see what I'm talking about. You can see the main thing is to get that Sif taunt up. You really want that because that provides the charges to Thor. And once Thor starts going off, you're going to notice it. And you guess Mighty Thor is going off. You don't notice as much, but when she gets 5 charges, she does go and hit whoever is the lowest with a burst of damage. And don't forget, every time that one of the heroes go, they also get charged on Thor as long as you have Mighty Thor's passive T forward. You notice here, I've also noticed that this team is incredibly buggy in DD3 for some reason. The visual temporaries have got disabled. This happened to me quite a few times. Honestly, after playing it though, I kind of wish we had this option because this would really help with some of those longer nodes. You can see how quickly this stuff is going because it's just hit button, people die. And you can kind of see the amount of damage that this team can put out, even at this low level. So you see they got through node 1 pretty healthy too. Let's move on to node 2. So here we are on node 2. I had to reload the game after that visual disable bug. You pretty much get stuck whenever you end a node. You don't get the victory screen, but it does count your progress, so don't worry about it if you actually get that. You can see there's Thor going off, doing a bunch of damage. These nodes do get harder as you go through them. You can see every time Hero Asgardian takes a turn, we get a charge on the Thor, which of course we want. Thor just does quite a bit. This does tons of damage, constant AoE from him. There we go. Again, he's constantly smashing. That's pretty much what you're going to be doing. You're going to be saving Heimdall special in case of emergency heal block or some other. He does clear a negative effect. 2 if you have it T forward. So that might be something like there's a stun or something you need to get rid of, ability block. The one thing I did notice that Sith is fairly low in health points, even after her rework. That makes her a little bit more paper tank. And also, I wanted to mention that this is a 7/7 Thor. A big Thor is definitely needed. As you see, we're dealing with AI vision there, and we're constantly getting dodged. But they hit the Asgardians, and again, we get that. I'm really interested to see how Valkyrie works instead of Hela. Hela works incredibly well because of that Greg constantly dying. But for the Scourge, we already know that we're going to need them all, so. Again, another big smash from Thor. I don't have the ultimate here, T forward, otherwise that would have blinded the primary target. Just disrupted Colossus there. But you get the idea. We get through this pretty quickly. This whole video is about 4 minutes. We get through this node. Let's just skip to the end so you can see how healthy they are. You can see even at the end of this node, we're pretty healthy. But now we move on to node 3, which is a bit tougher and has a bit more high burst. You know, see what happens there. So here's node 3 now. You can see we're starting off at full health here. And things things go well in the beginning. My God, I should not be allowed to talk sometimes, I swear. You know, we have lots of damage. Even though that the stupid hand sentry got the invises off. Doesn't really matter with Thor doing an AoE. It's kind of nice to having this AoE as he goes again, just based off of our team taking a turn. So this first wave was nothing really to them. So we're getting through Juggernaut with Hela taking away that death proof. So it's kind of nice you get that counterattack from Sif, and then Thor went off at the same time. You can see Thor is really doing the work. Even Mighty Thor doing quite a bit of work. She'll get even better as we get more stars on her. We should get at least a 5-star on her for the event. I haven't really checked the numbers to see if it's enough for 6 stars. I don't think so. But getting double rewards for her is quite nice this month. With Scopely doing the right thing. So you see we're doing quite well here. It's the next wave that causes the problems. I wanted to get rid of a negative effect that happened to be defense down. I don't have the T4s on Heimdall in this free-to-play account. I didn't want to use Dogbert because Dogbert, of course, has a Gear 16 Mighty Thor. I wanted to see them all at Gear 14 level 75. And in DD3, had this been, a year or two ago, this would have been a great team. But now we actually have the Fantastic Four characters out there with Human Torch, who has quite a bit of burst damage. And he's actually going to be the problem here, along with Senior Stretchy Reed. Then you can see we've lost Sif because of that assisting mechanic. And as soon as that happens, the team starts falling apart. That's why I'm not so sure that Valkyrie's going to be that good of a character, because of her whole passive needing somebody to die in order to really take effect. And now we've lost Heimdall. Stuck behind the Juggernaut taunt. There goes Hela. Now the rest of, you see the burst damage is just taking them out. And now without the other Asgardians there to help charge them up, by taking turns, we get wiped out. So you can see the negatives here a bit better of what happens to them. So now for the ultimate questions, are the Hero Asgardians actually worth it? And the answer is kind of actually maybe. We really don't know yet. Individually, they are not worth using on their own, though. The Thor might be a slight exception just because he has of that Wave 1 Avenger tag and the Avenger tag period. He might get a little bit more use off this team, but ultimately you want him on this team. They might be good for the War Scourge event. It's hard to say. It's going to depend on how, on how the event is actually tailored, how nodes 5 and 10 are actually made. If it's a heavy heal block, kind of fast characters, quick burst damage type node, they're going to be absolute trash. If it's a node where you need high AoE damage that can just hit everybody because maybe you're stuck behind taunts or something, they'll be absolutely great. If it's a slower kind of characters, I'm highly not suspecting it. They might be I think might be how they might be trash again. They might be the trash one. But the first team announced for the first two were the teams that we needed. We'll see if that holds up with the third overall recommendation. And also, the other reason why you might want this, if you really want another war defense team, they are a good war defense team, which is what they're supposed to be. So if that's what you want, that would be worth it to you. But overall suggested level in gear is just gear 14, level 75. Very basic thing. You bring them up to that level. It's not that high of investment anymore, that orange gear. Yes, there's mystic characters in there you'll have to bring up, but this at least gives you that ability to maybe use them as a sack team, worst case scenario. And if they are the team to use for the Scourge, you'll have them pre-built up. You can just then panic spend some gear if you hoard like me and bring them up to where you need them to get whatever star level you're looking to get. Because let's face it, most of us are not going to be going after a 7 or even a 6 star. Whoever the war character is, most likely Red Hulk. But if you are interested in building them, let's take a look at them and what you actually really need on like T4s. We'll take a look at this in game. So here we are in game looking at these characters and talking about what you really want to do. Now if you're looking to gear somebody else up a little bit more in this team, if you have the extra mystic gear around, and really the key player is actually Thor. You absolutely positively want him big. I wouldn't go after a 7 or 6 red star, like spending promo credits on him, but I would be very happy, like I am on Catbert, that I have pulled a 7 red star. The absolute bigger he is, the better he's going to be, more damage he's going to do. You actually want all these T4s. This does more damage, plus flips defense up on his basic. This hits 3 targets, so more damage again, plus crit chance on top of it. This is 50% damage to all targets, plus an extra 10% chance to stun. Yes, you absolutely want that, and of course you absolutely positively want this passive, an extra 20% every time he gets maximum charge, where you absolutely want that. Because he should be going off quite a bit. And you absolutely, if you want to break him off a little bit, you absolutely positively want Mighty Thor. And this is probably the most necessary of them all the T4s on the team. Mighty Thor's passive. This is the one that allows her to always apply a charge to herself and all chargeable Hero Asgardian allies. This will also apply to Valkyrie. You always want this going off whenever they take a turn. You actually really want on all T4s on her as well. You have 80% to all piercing to all enemies on this big ultimate. Plus she applies blind. It's kind of a nice bonus. This one again, it's 80% piercing to the primary and secondary targets. This is more of a cleave. Again, you want that T4. I still don't have the resources on Catport to do it. And even another 80% piercing on her basic. That would be the last one I would do on her. But you absolutely do want them. Sif is actually kind of nice because you don't need any of these T4s. In reality, maybe the passive, you want that 10% block chance and to get the 25% resistance on the Hero Asgardians. That's the only maybe. The rest of these are just do extra damage. Sif's job is not to do damage. Sif's job is to stand there, take hits, and charge up Thor. That's her job. As far as Heimdall, the passive, if you're into war defense, you'll want the passive for war defense. Otherwise, it's useless. 50% of damage to primary and secondary targets. He doesn't do a whole lot of damage, so not really worth it. The only one that might be worth it on Heimdall, if you want it, is to get this clear 2 negative effects instead of 1. That's from self and all allies. That could be useful. And the basic is junk. As for Valkyrie, let's go look at her on MSF.gg because we obviously don't have her unlocked. So taking a look here on MSF.gg at Valkyrie, I could see an argument being made for her basic since it is 75% damage to both primary and secondary attacks. That's quite a bit of damage. Her special, absolutely. Getting a stun out of it is always worth it. Plus the 80% damage is just icing on the cake. Ultimate, yes, you want that ability block plus the extra damage. The only one that's kind of questionable, if you really need it or not, is this passive. Because in order for this to happen, somebody has to die. We don't have any way to really res them. So it kind of doesn't make really much sense to get this. I would just leave this alone, but if you really want it, go for it. It's up to you. So I hope this video is helpful and informative, and I hope it sounds a lot better with this new microphone. Until next time, everybody,